Hello, hello, what is going on, everyone? Phoenix61 here. Skull and Bones, right? I haven't done a Skull and Bones video in a hot minute, right? I think, it sort of felt like I had conquered Season 2, right? If you've been watching any of my Skull and Bones videos, we've kind of have obnoxious amounts of pieces of 8, like literally in the millions, right? At some point we've been spending them buying the legacy crates up just to see what we get and just kind of having fun with it. And I think we've probably killed the bosses for this season more times than I can count, right? So just like been jumping in here and there, farming some eights, funding manufactories and stuff like that, right? Just and playing a little bit here and there, kind of just waiting for the next season at this point. But now it is upon us, right? So there are, I think it's going to be August 22nd is when the next season come out, right? So you got a couple of days here, right? It is kind of nice. So there are a few changes since I've done videos lately, right? You can see how many people are participating in the events that are going on, right? Like, this is nice. How many people are there and how much time is left too. So you'll see, like this one here, 4 minutes left for that boss fight, and nobody's doing it, right? So you might struggle to try and actually, finish him off, right? So it makes sense to, okay, I would just ignore, some of these events then. So that is really, really nice. And then warehouse space has been upped to 250 slots, but I never actually go up to the warehouse, right? I just always just hold B and then go and manage cargo, because you can tab over to warehouse from here, right? Doesn't make sense to actually go to the warehouse unless you have some specific mission or thing to turn in with that person. But yeah. So we are going to start talking about what to do now that the season is coming to an end, and you literally do not have a lot of time, right? This is you got a day and a half, 2 days here, right? So my apologies for being late with this video. I didn't realize patch notes came out a couple days ago, right? So and I didn't realize that, and I also didn't realize they had details similar to last season changeover. As to what's getting reset and what what happens. So we'll go into that and I'll show you exactly. But for now, factories. If you notice, all of my factories are red. They are not funded, right? So stop funding them right now. There is no, if you've got a lot, right, and you've got them maxed out. All I've been doing is going in and assigning ships to ones that still have a little bit left. Like if you're using medium-sized ships, right, they'll carry 600. So if the factories have 600 or more, I'm reassigning a ship to it, that I have dedicated as fleet ships. I've probably got I've got 33 ships that are just solely for collecting eights from factories, right? So all I'm doing is going in, any of the factories that have more than 600, grabbing one of my idle ships, and I'm sending them there so that they're picking those up, right? I wouldn't spend any more silver unless you're particularly close to some sort of milestone for the season, right? You get to diamond rank for pieces of 8, right? There's a reward, but honestly, I'll show you what it is. It's not that great. I'll show you later in the patch notes. But so we'll go into the Helm Office here too. So that's kind of step 1. Stop funding your factories. Don't spend any more silver on them, because they're all about to reset, right? There's 2 days left. They're going to be done. And then what I would do here, again, I recommended this last season cutover, is use, get some materials refined here, right? Because, some of these bonuses that you're getting may reset. Now, last season, the particular, production bonuses for Helm products did not reset. But there's nothing that I saw indicating that they will or won't for this season. So I would get some. If you've got some, I would just go in and make sure you've got, your lab and your distillery running. But yeah, so it says 1 day left here, but I know they extended it by 2 days. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. It's probably going to say 0 for a day or two or something here. But yeah. And so Leaderboards, it's whether you care about that or not, whatever. I was actually kind of surprised I was this high up on the leaderboard for the weekly because I was hardly in here at all to but yeah. So upgrades. So you can see over on the left, all upgrades will be reset at the end of the season. Okay, that's what it says. And that's what happened last season, with the exception of this first one that's smuggler operations, right? So I didn't see anything indicating that it will or won't reset, right? So I always just assume the worst, that it's gonna get reset because that's what it says. But last time around, this particular smuggler's operations, like these perks, did not get reset, and they have to do with being able to produce items at the particular items at the distillery, and like better production rates and cheaper silver cost to produce, like stuff like that, right? So that's specifically for producing helm materials like the Gold Skull rum and Gold Skull gin and all that, everything from both the lab and the factory, right, or in the distillery, right? So, but everything else that we're scrolling through here, these all did get reset, and actually they also changed as well, right? So I'm gonna guess that they'll be tweaking what these perks are and benefits are. Some of these things we do know what the changes are, so I'll show you in the patch notes what those are gonna be. But it does also look like there's going to be the very, very similar soft reset is what they called it. So spend your pieces of 8, right? But one thing you can do in the meantime, right, is farm materials, right? So you could still do all your supply network stuff that you are comfortable doing, right, that you like. Those don't go away, right? You're going to hang on to your materials. So go in there, do those as you're signing in for the last couple of days here. And then here are patch notes. So here's this season 3 PTS. I'm not even sure what this means, but it looks like they gave some people the ability to like test some of the new season 3 content, and it actually just ended yesterday, right? So, but I wanted to scroll through here really quick because it does show some of the new things that are coming here, and it shows some of these in the full patch notes too. But basically, a new sea monster fight or monster fight, right? It looks like some kind of dragon, so that should be kind of interesting. There is a new ship in here. So anything that you're like super interested in, I'm like, there's just so much, especially on the next thing, right? Weapon hits within 200 meter range, apply taunt charges. Applying taunt makes target vulnerable to 50% increased weak point damage. Yeah, like, so like there's new perks coming, just new stuff, right? New weapons, new items, new ships, right? And then new bosses, new monster hunts, right? Like, so, and then they do have like, some of the storyline outlined. So Phoenix Talons, Demi Cannon. Looks like it is like fire based, so that'll be interesting. And then Heaven's Mandate looks like electric based, so that's a new status effect that we'll be seeing next, in this season, in season 3. So that should be fun. Heaven's Wraith. If target is afflicted with the electrified stat effect, hits have a 15% chance to summon. This is, adds 20% damage of burning. So this is the Phoenix Talons. And then, Heaven's Wraith. If a target is afflicted with the electrified status effect, hits have a 15% chance to summon a devastating lightning strike. That sounds cool. Okay, and so then this is what they are going to look like, right? So here's the full patch notes, and it's just freaking massive. So I'm going to go through here, and we'll kind of blaze through here for the things that I think are more interesting or more important. And then if you see something else that you're interested in, hit the pause button if you want to read it, because this will just take me 2 hours to go through everything. New epic long gun. Hits to a target's weak point have a 35% chance to summon lightning. That sounds awesome. I can't wait to play with that. Some new armor coming. Let's see. Prevents a killing blow from sinking the ship, and the ship becomes invulnerable for the next 6 seconds. Has a 180-second cooldown. Okay, interesting. So, you could survive once, and then someone has 180 seconds to kill you. New weapons. So we just talked about those a little bit. The Phoenix Talents and Heaven's Mandate. I mean, I've got my Zamzamas, right? Like the Phoenix Talents, we'll have to see. We'll play with them. I'll put some videos out once we get those and see how different they are. But I just love my Zamzamas, right? So, but the electric ones, like that's, we definitely got to get into that, right? Updated controls. I'm not gonna keybind it. I'm not gonna care too much about this stuff. We definitely need to scroll past these things. Action wheel changes. It's stuff that we'll just figure out and deal with as we're playing. This is kind of nice. Increased drop rates for epic and rare equipment from boss chests. So this was frustrating fighting some of the current, season 2 bosses, and you get the chests because they have specific like unique for weapon or furniture pieces for sure that you could only get from them, and it was just getting frustrating just killing that boss a bajillion times and still not getting the furniture piece that you wanted. New reward for Lepes Locker. So yeah, furniture piece that kind of helps you out with toxic weapons. That's kind of interesting. This is seasonal content, right? So this is kind of their, their schedule, right? So I won't read through everything here, but basically here's starting the first week, here's the first like missions, contracts, whatever you want to call them, that are going to be available. So, I mean, yeah, you can see these here, and then so it looks like that's for this. These are all for the first 2 weeks. Oh yeah, there's a new torpedo that you can get in here that adds electric damage and flooding damage. That sounds pretty sweet. Dude, I'm kind of excited to do some new ship builds and play around with that. Okay, so then episode 2 starts the 3rd week. New bounty, Serpent's Wraith. Get some materials and stuff. Then Calm Before the Storm starts week 5. Episode 4 is week 7, right? So, yeah. Smuggler's Pass highlights. There's a new ship, Battle Junk. We will play with that when we get it. Nothing seemed too crazy exciting with that, but yeah. And then there's a new event that looks like it's going to be, I don't know, racing and fighting maybe. We'll have to see about that. And then, yep, here's the Sea Dragon. That I am excited about. I mean, granted, this is an art picture, right? But that looks freaking sweet. Some new enemy types I see listed here. So this is kind of interesting. Impeder. They'll basically not a heavy hitter, but will quickly tear your sails. And then Defender, heavy tank ship with armor. They deal low damage and instead contribute by maneuvering to block your shot. Interesting. Okay. Blackwood Vendor. So it looks like Blackwood will have some stuff to sell. New items added to his wares every 2 weeks. New items in the black market. I'm going to say this a bunch of times. Go and spend your pieces of 8 at the black market, whether it's just buy out materials, right? But there's some other stuff in here, some new weapons and things coming for next season. But yeah, there. It looks like the same thing's going to happen that happened last season, right? Only 300,000 pieces of 8 are going to be saved and carry over, so you need to spend down your pieces of 8. I'll show you where it says that in a minute here, but yeah, spend down your pieces of 8 down to 300,000. Okay. So even if it's just buying materials from the black market, buy out the materials, right? Improvements to legacy cash. So this will be nice. It looks like they'll actually only drop good things from it. So we did that. I have some videos out there where I bought like 100 legacy cash just because we had 1 million pieces of 8 to do nothing with, right? And so yeah, some of the drops were kind of disappointing. So now it looks like it'll include things from both, all previous seasons and won't include some of the things you don't care about, right? refinery material kind of players are now able to combine existing materials through the refinery to form other better and newer materials at silver cost. Okay. So I was looking at this. There is an image example of it as we scroll down here. But basically they're creating new materials yet again, right? Very similar to last season when you it was a little bit of like sticker shock for some of these things. But if you look here to eel sturdy ropes, to create one of them, you need 10 eels twine, 7 sinew string, right? That's rough right there. Like that's, that's a lot. So that's what I'm saying. Go in the black market and buy up the eels twines and all of that stuff. Buy yourself down to so that you have around 300,000 pieces of 8 remaining, because that's all you're going to be able to save into next season, right? Item salvaging, this is something that I think I mentioned in some of my videos that would be nice, right? So things that you don't use, like I'm particularly thinking like repair kits that I don't use. Like you really only use like 1 or 2 different types of repair kits, and the others I just delete, right? So being able to break things down to get some raw materials back will be nice. New status effects, taunted. This is looks like one of the new weapons we were reading about applies this effect. If the target is an AI, it is focused on the taunter source for a duration of the effect. Target deals 50% less damage from the duration of the effect. So maybe you take less damage if you've taunted a target. Sometimes I feel like they don't do the best at explaining what status effects and things do. Stormstruck. This is the one I'm like super interested. I'm excited to use this. So hopefully it's not like underwhelming when we actually put it in, put it to use. But yeah, basically dealing electric damage. Okay, so here we are finally. This is why I almost didn't think they were giving this information away. It was because this is so buried deep in the patch notes here. Players who've reached the diamond tier on the seasonal leaderboard will receive a nameplate. So that is kind of underwhelming, right? So those of you grinding your 8s just to try and get to diamond tier, enjoy your name your nameplate, right? But here it says a soft reset will be applied to all players who accumulated more than 300,000 pieces of 8. So that's a little unclear as well, but like they did the same thing last season, right? So if you have more than 300,000 pieces of 8, you're going to lose all of those pieces of 8, and you're only going to be able to carry over 300,000 pieces of 8. So spend your pieces of 8 at the black market. Buy materials. Just buy materials, tons of materials, especially rare ones, right? But you will get rewards. Again, this was very similar to the last season reset. Basically, for however many factories you owned, you will get ship upgrade parts as you go into the next season, right? So, and then similar thing for territories, which I mean isn't really that much, right? If you owned all the factories, then you also own all the territories, right? So yeah, but you'll get Helm leases. So same thing as from last season if you watched those videos from me, but basically it's a free, you get a free manufacturer. You don't have to go and do the missions or whatever to unlock it. You don't have to do the hostile takeovers or anything. You can just sail up to it with your Helm lease. It's an item, and then you spend that item and you get the factory, right? So new types of territorial benefit. So this is, kind of what I was getting at with like the Helm upgrade stuff. So they're tweaking some of this. We'll have to see. Like this is kind of I don't want to say unclear, but profit rate for specified contraband by percent, right? So these were like, I don't know if that's referring to the upgrades at the Helm Office, right? Like that you purchase, but basically they're tweaking it, right? And so yeah, and then there is this new collect all benefit that's listed in here. So it looks like within a specified territory, there's going to be a way to collect all of the pieces of 8 at the cost of 5% of those pieces of 8, right? So we'll have to see how that works, once we get in there and are able to do that. Yeah, that may mean like sailing up to one of the factories within that territory, and then you could there's an option to collect all, right? So if you don't have a massive fleet like I do, that would probably be the way to go to save yourself time instead of going up to each location. Then Helm Empire cost rebalance. So it looks like for the higher upgraded, starting at level 3 for the factory, once you get your factory upgrade to level 3, looks like it's going to cost less silver to fund the factories this time around. So I'm pretty sure they rebalanced. They balanced that this past season from season 1 into season 2 as well. Yeah. And then Empire Administration upgrade will overall require less pieces of 8 to reach. So this is talking about the a number of factories that you can own at any given time, right? So you have to go into so it looks like they're decreasing the cost here too. But basically, you get to a point, you can only own so many factories when you first start the season, and you have to go into the Helm Upgrade Office and buy the upgrades that will allow you to own more and more and more of them. So then once you get that Helm upgrade maxed out, then you're allowed to own all the factories again, right? So, just a bunch of other random updates, right? So war drums, this is kind of interesting. I think very few people used war drums, and so they're changing what the effect is. Increase armor rating by 200, so that's kind of nice. That might make a difference. That might make me consider using it for some builds. New items available from Rama and Skurlock. Looks like furniture, so we'll have to check those out once the new season drops. Sea monster changes. Listari now goes after targets with higher health. I don't know, it was kind of frustrating, but yes, he would pick on the big giant shark would pick on people like multiple times in a row, and then you were screwed, right? You would go down. Which I don't know, I was like, oh, this sea monster's smart. It knows to attack the same person until it dies, right? But I can see people getting frustrated with that. There a whole bunch more changes. So like I said, if you see something that you're interested in, just pause the video and read it. Or, if you just go and like Google search, Skull and Bones patch notes, like it pretty much takes you right to this page too. But, if I remember, I'll put the link in the description. That's a big if. Right? But yeah, the big things were, getting in here, letting everybody know, reminding you that don't fund your factories anymore because it's going to be a waste of silver because they're all about to reset in 2 days. And then, make sure you pick up your 8s if you want those to get the most out of it. They're tweaking each of the ships here, so there's tweaks to pretty much every ship. So if you're interested, if you've got one that you use, pause when you see your ship come up, right? But nothing in here was like so crazy that it was even worth they're small tweaks, right? Like the bark, they're lowering the amount of health that you heal back, but it's slight, it's small. I don't even know if you'll notice that, but yeah, so yeah, don't spend any more silver on factories. Collect any 8s that are remaining. Spend your pieces of 8. That's the big one. Spend your pieces of 8 if you have more than 300,000, right? If you don't have more than 300, if you're under 300,000, then absolutely you could work towards getting up to that amount, because that will give you your head start going into season 3, right? Like that's what you want. You want to try and get up to 300,000 pieces of 8, because you'll be able to carry those over into next season, and then that will help you level up some factories literally right away, on day 1, to help you start collecting 8s right away, right? So that basically gives you a nice big head start, right? So highly recommend doing that. And then yes, if you have more than 300,000 pieces of 8, you need to spend those, otherwise you just straight up lose them. So buy materials, buy those exotic materials, and even the regular materials as well, because like wood and the metals and stuff like that. Just buy a ton of them, right? Just buy. Until you're, buy yourself down so that you're at about 300,000 pieces of 8 when the season flips, because that's all you're going to be able to carry over, okay? We did this last season, and then it gives you a huge head start, right? Having those materials, because it does look like there's going to be new materials introduced and then you'll want to, and then some of those exotic materials, right, you need to use those exotic materials to craft the new materials, right? Like, so it's just this compounding thing of needing more and more stuff, right? So yes, I can't emphasize enough, spend your 8s if you've got more than 300,000. If you've got less than 300,000, that's what you want to focus on for the next couple days here, is getting up to 300,000 or as much as you can, right? Because that's whatever you can earn, whatever you can have, that's that much of a head start that it gives you for going into the next season. Alright, I am signing out for now, guys. Please make sure you're following the channel. Click my face icon down in the bottom right that shows up here. Yo, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We will have more Skull and Bones videos as the new season starts, okay?